If you are not contributing in length on game day, why are you worth taking up the most valuable spot on a coaching staff? That is my question for every CEO head coach in the league. The biggest talking points for why they are fine and you should be okay with it is they bring good vibes, they keep everyone in order, they're separated from the game planning and doing everything else so they can just focus on getting the team together, which, what does that even mean? You're a professional organization. You shouldn't need a guy to babysit. And then even beyond that, if you're strictly discussing the vibes of a team, if you're a CEO, the vibes are only as good as your company. If you're a CEO of a football team, the vibes are only as good as your team. You're not going to have good vibes when you're 2-9. You look at the Eagles this year with Nick Sirianni, like they brought in an inflatable bunny as some sort of vibe lifter. The bunny had a hole popped in it by the next week. Why? Because you lost. It didn't work. Vibes are low. You lose. But vibes are not based off of some human being coming into your locker room and uplifting your spirits. You know how vibes change? When you're working with someone that you believe in and they tell you, hey, we're going to turn this around. That is how a vibe shift happens. Like, you need to believe in the person saying the things in order to believe in them yourself. And you look at somewhere like Chicago. You go after the analytical mind and hope that he has it. And guess what? You see how that team like gathers around him. That is a vibe. That is what you're looking for. That is a cohesive unit. He does so many things for that offense. They understand that. When you look at a team like the Eagles, you look at players who there's clips, and they can deny all they want, but there are clips of them not respecting Nick Sirianni. And why? It's because in a player's mind, if they are not doing the same caliber of work as you, you're just not on the same level. Like, you are not as involved in what they are doing, so why should I respect your opinion on the matter? If you're not going to attempt to fix the problem, what are you doing here? It's just a nuisance to have someone in your ear when they're not going to help. It's not just the Eagles. You obviously have the Steelers with Mike Tomlin, who they just fired. And this idea that Mike Tomlin is some guru who manages to make his team perform above expectations each and every year is just absurd. It really doesn't make sense. You have a team that is average. They perform average. And the reason they do this every year is because you have a passive head coach making passive decisions. The way you win a lot of games, you have to make difficult decisions. And that's also the way you lose a lot of games. There is variance here. That variance is good because when you go 3-14, when you go 2-15, you get to pick a franchise quarterback. You get to get a Andrew Luck. You get to get a Joe Burrow. But when you sit here and force yourself to go 9-8 every year because you think that your team is good enough to just make the chalk decisions, like, you're not. You're not a great team because you haven't put yourself in a position to become a great team. The only way you put yourself in a position to become a great team is by taking risks. Teams like the Seahawks have taken risks. Teams like the Patriots have taken risks. If you take risks, you get rewarded. Fortune favors the bold. That is just the truth of the matter in just about everything. And just to jump back to Sirianni for a moment here, one of the things you hear with him is, look at how much he's done in 5 years. Look at the 2 Super Bowl appearances, the 1 victory, the just absurd winning percentage. Cool. Let's look at Mike Tomlin through his first 5 years, doing the exact same things, and then let's come back to this point. Just because you are successful with a team you're given does not mean you are inherently the reason for said success. There's a reason Nick Sirianni won his ring within the first 5 years. There's a reason John Harbaugh won his ring within the first 5 years. There is a reason Mike Tomlin won his ring within the first 5 years. There is a reason that Mike Vrabel has the chance to win a ring in his first year. And it's because they have a shelf life. If you keep them beyond that, The team cannot sustain their lack of involvement. And throwing Vrabel in here is probably a bit over the edge. I take that one back. But I assume the point gets home. And then you look at the team across from him to get more into the Seahawks, who actually decided to move on from a CEO, move on from Pete Carroll, onto a guy from the Ravens that many Ravens fans wanted to promote over John Harbaugh, Mike Macdonald, and he's gone to Seattle and completely shifted the culture. Why? Because they've won. He's put in the work, they've seen him put in the work, and it's shown up on Sundays. He turned a defense that had a lot of the same players from when Pete Carroll left and made them into a top 10 unit overnight. And then you come back this year in his first year to actually put together his own unit. You bring in Imanwari. You get a second-year leap out of Byron Murphy. All of these you get the best out of Tariq Woolen. All of these players that just had an absurd potential, he is unleashing them. Why? Because he is involved. You have a guy that is involved that you know no one can take from you. That is what you need to build a dynasty at this point. You cannot have some guy just out there leading your team. That's just not how it works. You are going to lose the chess match every single time because that guy is going to get poached. And this take, if you want to go even deeper, goes beyond just having a game caller. You needed an offensive game caller because for as good as Seattle is, if they lose Clint Kubiak, who really knows what happens? Because you watched last week's NFC Championship game. He walked laps around Chris Shula. The way he was able to use JSN and manipulate the defense, especially on the quarters beater to the left side of the end zone when JSN was wide open, just unbelievable from Kubiak. If they lose him and his ability to game plan their offense, like you're just flipping a coin as to what it looks like next year. And obviously they have the talent. They have the talent for it not to really matter. But it's always a risk. In the simplest terms, you can think about this like an expansion draft where you get to protect a certain amount of players. The head coach is your one protection spot. The head coach should be used on the one coach that you simply cannot lose. Your team simply cannot operate without. And I just want to ask a few questions. Would you protect Nick Sirianni in this scenario over Vic Fangio? Over Shane Steichen? Would you protect John Harbaugh over Mike Macdonald? Going into last year, over Todd Monken? Would you protect Jim Harbaugh over Jesse Minter? Would you protect Jim Harbaugh over Mike McDaniel? If you lose the person calling your plays, you're screwed. It is an offensive football league. No matter what anyone says, offense wins championships. The last time we saw a defense just completely carry a team was the Broncos carrying Peyton Manning. And of course, you had the low-scoring Super Bowl between Jared Goff and Tom Brady, in which Vic Fangio shut down the Rams' offense. But those offenses were both extremely explosive. They got there because they were explosive. And guess what? The play caller for one side, Sean McVay. The play caller for the other, Josh McDaniel, who just does not get head coaching jobs for obvious reasons at this point. But he's back there now with the Patriots again. And the Patriots do not need to use that protection spot on Josh McDaniel because no one wants him as their head coach. The only way you get away with keeping coordinators in their current role is if they have failed multiple times. And just to touch home here on one last thing, just listen to these coaches talk. Listen to what they say, and when they are asked to be more involved, look at what comes out of it. When Nick Sirianni called plays in 2021, how the offense looked, the statistics from that offense, and how poor they performed. Listen to the things Nick Sirianni says when discussing offense in the modern NFL and compare it to that of Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson understands passing EPA is the most important stat in the game. And then you look at Nick Sirianni, and he's sitting here saying, well, can't turn the ball over, got to protect it. At all costs, Jalen, we do not want you throwing picks. We're going to avoid the middle of the field. The only shots you're taking are down the sidelines against cover one. Just an absolute zero-risk offense. And what comes with zero risk? Zero reward. when Mike Tomlin is asked to make decisions on the move during the game. He is one of the worst decision makers when it comes to kicking field goals in the history of football. The amount of points that have been left on the field from Mike Tomlin is just completely and utterly ridiculous. And then you have John Harbaugh. There have maybe been 3 teams in the last decade plus, Jets, Jags, and maybe someone else, who have lost more games within 5 points than John Harbaugh. Decision making down the stretch of games is pretty much all these coaches have going for them. And when you look at the decisions they make and the points lost because of them, it really just, what do you gain from having them? What do you get? Robert Saleh talked about this just earlier today, about how in New York, he felt that he was just there to call timeouts and throw a challenge flag. Robert Saleh is a pretty smart guy. He was terrible at that. The 2 things he was there to do on game day, he just wasn't very good at. Bringing me to why the entire concept of a CEO, head coach of a football team, is paradoxical. Because the more they attempt to lead the team, get their hands on the team, the worse the team becomes.